Well, good evening, and thank you all for being here today. Welcome to our annual community forum and roundtable of student safety. Student safety is our number one priority in Washoe County School District, but I want to take a moment to introduce a couple of people who are here today. To my left, I have our American Sign Language Coordinator, Christy Watson, and somewhere, Rose, in the back, we have our Spanish translator interpreter. So our goal is to make sure that we have access and equity for any of our community members who would like to come and participate in our activities. So thank you, ladies, for being here today and helping us out. Also, we have some trustees in the audience. We have President Simon Holland, if you'd wave or stand. Yeah. Goal 5 of our strategic plan 2020 was created to ensure our schools were safe, secure, and supportive. And as part of that work, the board created for the community the Safe and Healthy Commission. And I can tell you, this commission does a lot of work and asks lots of hard questions from either their vantage point or for information they receive from the community or even from forums like this. So they are an integral part of the Washoe County School District as we continue to work on increasing our safety endeavors. So for each one of you who took a little time out today, because we were a little worried saying, well, will people show up? But how many of you got all those robocalls, right? It's important, and it's important for us to hear from our community, and so we are glad you are here today. Our chairperson for the commission is a former board member who's chatting over there, but Lisa Rosario has chaired this committee for the last 2 years. Welcome to the stage. Time runs. I'm introducing you now. Well, the time flies if it's been 4 years, but she's done an excellent job on challenging the staff and making sure that our students are safe. And one thing I can say about former trustee Lisa Rosario, she's been a part of Washoe County School District and caring about kids for over decades, and so her interest is still in this work, so we appreciate your hard work on the committee.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. Welcome, everyone. I'm Lisa Rosario, former school board trustee and currently chair of the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission, which, as Superintendent Davis said, it's a longtime passion of mine, and I'm so excited for you all to interact with the school district's commission, that the Board of Trustees and Superintendent have been such a valuable part in making happen. So, student safety has always been a passion of mine, as I said, and on behalf of the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission, I'm pleased to share information about our commitment with you today. What we look forward to hearing today from you is your feedback and also sharing with you things we are working on to make our schools more safe for our 64,000 students and the Washoe County School District. The Safe and Healthy Schools Commission is made up of community members from all walks of life, which you'll get to meet in a few minutes. They range from representatives of law enforcement to local government, nonprofits, educators, parents. And I'm honored to say that I am the chairperson for this committee. I'm very privileged to work closely. With such a diverse and dedicated group, we're able to complete a picture of student safety and staff safety from every angle. And it's so important that you're here tonight, and I personally want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. We took a moment to introduce our school district leaders. I just want to recognize her one more time. President Holland is here. She was here last year, and she's just such a huge supporter not only of safety for the school district, but does many projects outside of the school district to take care of Washoe County's kids. So thank you, President. I would also like to recognize my fellow Safe and Healthy School Commission members. So if members, can you please stand? These are the folks that meet monthly to look over every aspect of school safety. And so I'm going to briefly announce them. We have former Assembly member Amber Joyner, the State Suicide Prevention Coordinator Misty Allen, Alice Ledesma, longtime social service advocate who recently retired, I understand. Councilwoman Charlene Bybee, a stickler for school safety. Dr. Diane Nicolette, former trustee and early childhood guru. Coretta Patterson, our newest member. And Jeffrey Frame, who is another one of those people who works tirelessly to support school safety, and he never says no. Scott Benton, where's Scott? Made it here even after being sick the last couple of days. He's so committed. And of course, my partner in crime, Manuel Medeiros. Thank you, commissioners. I can't see. Oh, and well, I haven't done that part yet. So, something that was so important to the Board of Trustees and the superintendent is student voice. And so it was imperative when they formed the policy for the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission to ensure that we had a student sitting on the commission, because we felt it was so important to hear what our students had to say. And so this year we are represented by a Worcester High School student, Nathan Noble. Nathan, please stand. He is amazing. He comes to every single meeting. He gives a report, and I'll tell you what, he is not afraid to give staff feedback on when he thinks something's going wrong or when he thinks something's going right. He's such a valuable member. So thank you, Nathan. Okay, so let's get on and talk about the purpose. The purpose of this forum and community roundtable is to talk about current safety standards and measures in place at our schools throughout the Washoe County School District, and to give you an opportunity to give us valuable feedback. You will have an opportunity to ask questions that you may have about school safety. The Safe and Healthy Schools Commission values community feedback. In fact, we have used all of the information from our previous forums to make important changes that support student safety. For example, our emergency manager, school police, and Office of Communications put together this safety guide. If you can hold it up, Megan. This came out of last year's, and there's some on the tables, Irene? Okay, this came out of last year's safety form as a recommendation from parents. They wanted more information on emergency protocols, and so staff worked diligently with our emergency manager and our chief of police to really make this happen. So it's on our district website, and it also went out to the parents. The commission also hired a private safety audit company to look at practices in the Washoe County School District. The district is currently implementing many suggestions highlighted in this audit, such as the single point of entry, as you witnessed when you arrived here at Bernice Mathews. Today we'll also be discussing the safety and security measures we have in place to keep students safe at our schools. So let's talk about how the remainder of this evening will go. We're going to have 6 breakout sessions at these big tables in the back. And each breakout session will allow everyone to select your 2 top areas of concern that you'd like to learn more about and provide more feedback on. Each breakout session will have a Safe and Healthy Schools Commissioner facilitating the conversation, as well as district experts there to help answer your questions and discuss with you safety measures and protocols the district already has in place. So what I'd like to do is take a few moments here for each of the district experts to come up and talk about their role of safety in the district and discuss what will be addressed in their breakout section. So district experts, come on up. And we'll start with our chief of police, who will talk about school site security.
Good evening. Thanks for coming, everyone. My name is Jason Trevino. I'm the Chief of Police for the Washoe County School District Police Department. I'll be covering school site security, which is the things that most people generally think of when they think school security. So we'll be talking about fencing, locks, single point of entry, those types of things. And like Lisa said, we've learned a lot over the past from the past forums. So the one thing I would throw out there to everyone is if you have a very specific question about a case that you were involved in or your student was involved in, those types of questions are probably best dealt with on a one-on-one basis rather than the group, because they tend to monopolize the time for the breakout session. So if you have something very specific you want to talk about that your student was involved in, by all means we'd be happy to set that up, but the group discussion is probably not the best time for them.
Okay, so our next person, go ahead and pass it down and introduce yourself.
Okay. Deputy Chief Bryce, School Police. I will be speaking on visitor management, the controlled access, people inside of our building, and I'll be in the back right table there in the end.
Hello, my name is Roy Anderson. I am the emergency manager for the Washoe County School District, and today I'll be talking about our emergency procedures. So a little bit of discussion about what a code yellow is, what a code red is, even threw in a little bit on what a code blue is, if some of you may or may not know that exists. So we'll talk about the differences, what you can expect, and what you can expect from us, and answer any of your questions that you may have.
Hi, I'm Megan Downs. I'm the communications manager for the school district. We'll cover how we get messages regarding emergencies and other safety issues to our families. We do that via connected systems, social media, media partners. It runs the gamut. So we'll get in that discussion and learn a little bit more about how you want to hear about district news.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Loudon, and I coordinate school counseling and social work for Washoe County School District. And the professionals that will be with us will be from counseling, from school psychology, and from our community and social work. So we're going to be listening to you. Some of you who choose our table will be looking for specific answers. We're going to be listening to you to hear some of your concerns, but we'll also be sharing with you resources that are available on school sites for your child, as well as how to connect to those resources and some of the initiatives that our district is engaged in supporting mental health and mental health wellness. So,
Thank you, Catherine.
Last but not least, my name's Gina Session, and I'm the director of the Department of Civil Rights Compliance. And so I'm an attorney, and I oversee compliance with all bullying laws. And so I help advise on how to conduct a bullying investigation, how we respond, how to make sure that we get complaints, and that the schools are following all the proper procedures. So tonight, again, I'll echo I won't really be able to answer questions about specific concerns that you might have at our table, but I certainly can answer any questions you have about what the process is, what should be occurring, how to make a complaint, and where to go. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about what's going on in our schools. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Gina is amazing. So I do want to recognize Trustee Caudell. He snuck in. Trustee, stand up. One of our newest trustees and a big supporter of school safety, so we're so excited for you to be here today. And and another trustee snuck in. Stand up, Trustee Raymond. Welcome. Also another great supporter of school safety. So I'm so glad you're all here today, and thank you so much for your support of the commission. So again, you'll have a few moments to decide which breakout sessions you would like to attend. You'll have 25 minutes in that session, and then you'll have a brief break, and then another 25 minutes in the second breakout session. At the end, we'll all come back together to hear what the other groups had to say, including recommendations and questions. Then we'll compile all the notes, and these will be part of the official record of the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission to discuss at one of our upcoming meetings. So, there's more notes. They have me so organized. We'll be respectful of your time, so we'll be wrapping up this event at 7:30 p.m., but many of our commissioners and experts can stick around after that if you have additional questions. So let's take a minute for you to choose your roundtable discussion group, and please know that there's signs in the back there for you to go to, and if you don't get all your questions answered tonight, we'll be here afterwards to answer them. So we're going to hear from the School Visitor Management Group. Our commissioners are going to lead the conversation and share with you what came out of their group. And I'll hold this mic far away, Charlene. And I bet you have about 3 minutes.
We handled visitor management and okay, is it, where do I hold? Okay, good. Visitor management and encompassed the different layers, physical layers from fencing, perimeter fencing, single point of entry, from the new lobby guard, actual visitor management system that's going to be when people check in to the single point of entry, that'll be electronic, which is a very important upgrade. We did have concerns about people being hesitant to check in with an ID and people not understanding what that entailed, some concern on where's that information going. And so we wrote down some of the notes here that we want to have answered, thought about how do we educate the families and when this whole new system starts, what they do how to use it and what it means, and so that we don't have rumors flying about what all this information. There's a lot of people with privacy concerns and personal information across the board. So that was a concern that people asked about that we wanted to make sure that we addressed that issue for people before we rolled out, and even right now in the beta testing. I thought one suggestion might be back to school night. Back to school nights are usually pretty well attended at most schools as providing information when you have anything that's brand new. This might be a good point to do that.
I would just add the one thing that I think that we took away from our group that I think is urgent is that the 2 schools that are beta testing now, the visitor situation, that those 2 schools need to do some sort of parent meeting probably before the end of the school year, so that in the fall those parents will have a more comfortable situation in understanding what's going on with the visitor policy. I think that is probably the most important thing, the most urgent thing that we heard at our group session this evening.
We did have another good comment, a question in our last session from some new teachers, about to be teachers, about our locks and locking the doors, and Deputy Chief Price mentioned that it's up to the teachers right now whether they lock their doors or not, and we had a big concern with that, and I think that's something the Safe and Healthy School Commission will look at. I didn't realize that, and I think if we're going to really be secure, like he said, if those doors are locked, that's, you got an active shooter and they go to a door. If it's locked, they're going to go to the next door. So I don't think that not locking a door is an option, and that was like a big point that came out of everything that we did.
Okay, now we're going to do our next group, and that is commissioners who have the school site security group. Please come on up.
All right, so a handful of things about school site security. One of the questions that we had was, exactly what is it? You probably came up here and saw the numbers on the side of the school, but the school site security is layered. It's there's a fence surrounding schools is one of the layers. There's what we call the Columbine locks, or the door locks, and then the single point of entry. Now, not every school has all 3. Some schools have none of these things installed right now. It's something that the district is working on. It's a funding issue mechanism, and we're getting to it. But right now, all schools have the Columbine locks, and what those are is the locks that can be locked by the inside. I remember my teacher had to have the key and lock the door from the outside to lock the door. Now you can actually lock the door from the inside. So, what else? Okay, so another question was officer presence at the school campuses. Every high school has a full-time Washoe County School District police officer. They're there for the whole year. They're assigned. And then there's another officer that kind of patrols some of the surrounding schools in that area. So every high school has a full-time officer. Okay, another thing about the high schools is the off-campus. High school students are mobile. They tend not to stay on campus. They want to go, off-campus lunch. Some of them have classes off campus, and they're kind of coming back and forth. Another problem with the high schools, as I'm sure all of you notice, is they're all designed differently, right? You got the Wooster and Hug, Lisa's favorite. You got the Wooster and Hug design, which is kind of more of a multiple building campus. You got the McQueen, Galena, and I believe Reed are the same, somewhat design. And then you've got the brand new ones. Okay, so one thing we all should have seen when we came up is the door numbering system. This is another one of those layers of security, and this is a response type. So when there's an emergency, first responders will be told what door to go to, not the cafeteria door. I mean, cafeteria door is fine if you go to school here, you know where it's at. But if you go to door 20, because it's numbered over there, people who are first responders know exactly what door to go to, so they'll be given that instruction. This school was the beta test. So they went through a very long time doing this and got all the bugs worked out. But again, that's for this style of school. You can about imagine trying to number one of the high schools or something like that. It's a little more challenging. So right now, like I said, the layering and all the classroom locks and everything is fully funded. It's just a matter of getting somebody out there to install everything. So, okay. And then lastly, community collaboration with all the agencies. So not only does the school district police, they patrol obviously the schools, but then they have to cooperate between the jurisdictions of Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County. So there's kind of an interesting, it was great seeing Police Chief Trevino explain this one, so how they all work together. If it's school property, the school district patrols it. If it's an event somewhere out in the community, a school-sponsored event, that's school district police jurisdiction. And then one thing I'd like to leave you with that came up is community involvement. It's, Police Chief Trevino put it perfectly. If you see something, say something. You see a suspicious vehicle, you see something that just doesn't feel right, say it. Say it up front, and that, prevention is very valuable.
Beautiful job, school site security. Okay, now bullying. Come on up, commissioners and staff members.
So we had the pleasure of talking to quite a few community members. I will say that my favorite were the students from Vaughn, so thank you for talking to us. The takeaways that we had were that we have some work on getting the word out about Safe Voice and Bully Free Zone. Those are some resources that we have in the community so that we can report anonymously about bullying and other mental health issues that are going on within our students. Parents can use it, students can use it, and it goes to both the administration for the school district and then also to the administration for the school. Next thing that we are taking away from this, and we had a great discussion on, is explaining the bullying law. Gina Session is the person who handles that, so I'm going to hand that over to her and let her explain the 3 points of determining the bullying.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Sure, I'm happy to do that. So I always like to explain in the Nevada legislature defined what bullying is. And the definition in the statute is several paragraphs long. And even as an attorney, I've read it, 30 times probably, and I see something different in it every time. But our job as an attorney is to try to find the elements of bullying so that our people that aren't attorneys have a simple way to look at conduct to determine whether it meets the definition of bullying. And so in Washoe County, we use the 3-point criteria. And the 3 criteria are, is there harm, threat of harm? And so that can be physical harm, emotional harm. It doesn't have to be touching. It can be posting online. It can be malicious rumors. Those are all harm and threat of harm. Second criteria, is it unwelcome? So we kind of look, who's initiating the conduct? Is this mutual conduct between 2 students? Or is it a student targeting a certain student that is not welcoming the conduct? Some of the things we look at, is a student afraid to come to school? Are they avoiding certain parts of school because they're afraid? Those are all signs that it's unwelcome. And our third criteria is it severe, persistent, or pervasive? And it only has to be one of those things. Some bullying laws in other states, they say it has to be repeated conduct for it to be bullying. But in Nevada, if, say, 3 students jump 1 student, we aren't going to wait for a second time to say that's severe. So that's an example of something that's severe. It only has to happen once, and it's going to meet the 3-point criteria. So it can be severe, it can be persistent, which is more like the classic bullying of conduct that happens repeatedly where someone's targeting a student, or it can be pervasive. And that's a really unfortunate reality for us, is that lots of things end up online. And once they are online, you might have 50 to 100 students that see something damaging to another student. And that's an example of something that's pervasive. So whenever we get complaints, we're using that definition of bullying to determine the investigations and our findings. So.
And that leads us to the investigation process. We had a lot of questions and great discussion about the investigation process and how that takes place. And really the investigation process, the complaints are lodged in many different facets. And once the complaints are lodged, the administration has mandated time to turn around and begin that investigation. And as a parent, I stress to other parents in the room that it's an administrator at the school level that begins that investigation. And it's an administrator who's gone through training out of Gina's office that does that investigation. And one thing that I stress is that we have to trust the process, that there is a process in place for a reason. So after that process takes place within ideally by the end of the school day, the process has already started, but typically if that doesn't happen, they have 24 working hours to start the investigation. They interview the victim and the accused bully, and then they also have to bring in parents. They have to notify the parents, and then they conduct that, and it can take up to 3 days, and then they notify them in writing after the investigation is concluded. And that's all done at the administration level of the school. And then there's an appeal process, and that is done through the area superintendent, and then it can go all the way up through the deputy superintendent, and then even further if it needs to. One thing that I did learn is they try to keep things local, so if things need to go further through the school district level, then it certainly can, but we try to remedy things at the school level. The dynamics of social media. As things evolve, time has changed. Social media plays a big impact on bullying. I will say as a parent, it's not easy parenting with social media. A lot of things can be spread through social media, and that has changed the way bullying has happened. It's not just physical bullying anymore. A lot of emotional bullying happens through social media. And we have seen that transgress, and a lot of conversation has happened tonight through the dynamics of social media and the bullying around that. And the last thing that we talked a lot about was bullying on buses, and where and how does that get reported, and who handles that. And the takeaway from that is really it needs to be reported, same way any other type of bullying would be reported, and the school district will investigate it and do the due diligence and make sure that all things are investigated. Anything else?
So just real quickly, I'll just add, we had a meeting a few days ago, and one of our middle school principals shared the different dynamics of just 10 to 15 years ago, that on a Friday afternoon, our teachers and our principals leave school. But their jobs don't stop because of the social media. These actions happen every day. As you all know as parents, that these types of situations happen. And so they bleed into our schools, and the actions that happen around Snapchat, even though it's not really gone, and we've stressed that to students, that you all think that it's gone. Snapchat is not gone, it's there. And so as students, as teachers, as principals, as administrators, as a community and parents, we really need to work on what that means around social media and the harm that that can do for our students. So. All right.
Excellent job, bullying group. Outstanding. Okay, Okay, let's now hear from one of my faves, mental wellness.
Okay, I take full responsibility for the amount of information that's on there. I apologize. Rather than going through the specifics, there was a number of trends. Is first of all that mental health, wellness is a big encompassing topic, and it means a lot of different things to different people. So another point was that the district has some excellent programs and processes in place. Some of the barriers to their efficacy is probably communication. Again, the students from Vaughan talked to us about not knowing what Safe Voice was, or how to make a report and things like that. So we had some communication about needing to communicate things that are effective and in some cases mandated, but teachers and counselors didn't know about them from their specific school. And one of the things that we started with was training for staff, teachers, parents, students, whoever it touches, and it touches everybody, about things such as trauma-informed care and relationship development. One of the things that people emphasized is that relationship development takes time and resources and energy and funding, and that counselors, mental health professionals, staff at schools, teachers, parents, whoever, are really strapped for time and for resources. And so how do we make the best of what we've got, and how do we train people so that they're actually using that information, not just a training that they go to get CEUs, but something that is an everyday practice.
Well done, and I think I'll just add 2 points. The training was a huge part of our discussion, and early recognition and intervention, I think, kept coming up, and how important that is. So one of the homework assignments is to go see what University of Nevada and the School of Education is, how they're preparing. At what stage are we getting this information into our teachers and staff? And then also generational and ethnic diversity. How are we getting families and different generations, grandparents raising grandkids, into the room to have these discussions tonight? So I think as the Office of Suicide Prevention, always been a challenge, but legislation has mandated we now do free trainings for family members of those at risk for suicide. So I think you'll be seeing a bigger push at working with families and hopefully diverse cultures to improve that education. Do you have anything to add?
Thank you. One thing that we were able to do is really listen to some of the concerns of people that came, and sometimes the things that we think are happening are not always what's happening. And we talked about caring for teachers and trying to make sure that our teachers have that opportunity for that self-care. And so listening to them and caring for them was one of the things that we heard, which that's something that we as a district are trying to do. And then we talked about the role of our counselors, psychologists, and our school social workers, and some of the things that they're doing in the schools, and that teachers can do a few small things every day that can make a big difference. And so can our principals. It doesn't have to be necessarily a 2 or 3 hour training. We can do 1 or 2 things to have a large impact.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's so great to have the State Suicide Prevention Coordinator sitting on our commission, and now a seasoned social worker, newly retired, who's got all kinds of energy to keep us straight. Okay, next we're going to go into the emergency procedures group. Would the commissioners please come up from that group? Oh goodness, I can already see this is a troublemaking group.
Well, Manuel is the troublemaker. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. This is awesome. My name is Manuel, and it's a great pleasure to be here. So I was accompanied by our emergency manager and our communications director at the school district, so it's very important for them to be involved. really first and foremost, I want to thank you, all of you, for being here. And also, I want to invite you to the commissioner meetings. I think it's of value for you to do public comment on any of the concerns and hold us accountable for anything that we're talking about today. So I think it's important for you guys to be engaged and involved year-round. So, in emergency procedures, we talked about charter schools. A lot of times we think of emergency procedures that happen within our schools that are part of the district, but charter schools, being part of the district, do they follow the same emergency procedures? Lockdown drills, the NRS, laws within the state. We discussed current legislative session, and there's a lot of changes that might impact any of these drills, and how many drills, whether it's a fire drill, whether it's a lockdown drill, whether it's a active shooter drill, whatever that is, that's still being discussed through the legislative process, and I think it's important for all of us to pay attention to all that. The frequency of drills, there was questions about how many times do certain drills do happen, and the types of drills. There's been many more fire drills than earthquake drills. Why is that? Do we need to look at it differently? Should we propose differently so that people pay attention to all these other things? Nowadays, it's not just about fires. There's flood drills. We talked about floods in our schools. Should that have their own drill, as an example? Also, very importantly, that was discussed, the psychological effects in students after the drills. And many times, parents' concerned is that when any of these drills happen, there's some kind of psychological effect that happens after the fact, and maybe for a prolonged amount of period of time too. So that is important for us to look at as well. In classroom procedures that teachers follow in Code Red, some of the discussion was earlier about the things, the signs and the doors, how they're locked, and when they're blocked, and the windows and all that stuff, and where students are located in the classroom, and how do teachers communicate to emergency responders, and vice versa. So that's important. Bus emergencies. A lot of times there's a lot of incidents that happen inside the buses. How are the procedures followed there too? Active shooter drills, that was in our discussion. Dismissal of students in each code, meaning that many times when there's a code that trickles into the end of the day of the school, what happens? How are parents notified? What goes on social media? That's important too, and that's part of the communications department that kind of oversees that, and what gets posted, and what is the zone. So sometimes there's incidents that happen 5, 4, 3 miles away from the school, and how does that impact your school? Because a lot of times there's procedures that have to be followed, and maybe there's a lockdown in that specific school, but the incident happened far away. So yeah, go ahead.
So the one thing I would add to that, and it's something we discussed, is social media. And what I would say to our families and our parents is, do not always believe what you read on social media. Do not repost what you see on social media unless it comes from a reliable source, as in the Washoe County School District, first responders, our school district police, because we have seen many times where parents and families have got very upset and got very concerned because they have read things and believed things on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and then reposted. And when you repost as a parent, the next parent who reads it believes it. So just be cautious about what you read and what you believe on social media. You can follow the school district. We have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter account, and on our website, when we have an emergency, we update. We have like a Twitter feed, and we update every 5-10 minutes when we have an emergency. So that's where you can get your information from.
That's actually a great feature that the school district implemented recently, where on the website, the school district website, you can see sort of a Twitter feed, if you will, of the communications that is going back and forth from the school district to parents of that school. So please make sure you spread that with other parents. That's very important. Okay, so could you lift this up a little bit? I am tall. Okay, what happens to students when they are outside the classroom during a code? Meaning that some of our schools still nowadays have mobile classrooms, right? So what is the procedure that happens? Now, a good discussion that was talked in our group was the fact that as new schools begin to be built, hopefully all those old mobile homes or classrooms will be, they're kind of homes too for many students. Anyway, they'll be removed as time progresses and as all these kids get distributed to other schools. So that's the importance of building new schools and implementing safety measures. Let's see. So another part of it was what happens when a kid is out in the restroom, what happens when the kid is out in a mobile classroom, and what procedure takes place. What do emergency responders do in that case, or teachers? How do they look for this kid? Especially in elementary school student age, is very important for you to know where your student is. And if this kid is in the restroom, what procedures does the school, the teachers do take to look for this child? So communication procedures via Connected Ed, social media, we discussed that. 15 minutes of what?
So what we do know is that if a code red is called at a school, the most important thing for our families is to know what is going on at that school and what is going on with your child. So we as a school district, we commit that within 15 minutes of us finding out about a code red, we will send an automated phone message to you, which is called a Connected. We will send that message within 15 minutes together with a text and an email if you've signed up for that. And then we'll continue to keep in touch with you because we know how important it is that you know what's going on in that school, in your school.
Thank you for that. Lastly, when do drills involve law enforcement? There's some drills that do not involve law enforcement. And should law enforcement be involved or emergency responders be involved in all the drills? Maybe, maybe not. And that's a good discussion that does happen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being part of this. I would dance and sing, but we don't have time. We ran out. Sorry, too bad.
Thank you, Commissioner and staff. That was the longest presentation yet, 7 minutes. Okay, we're going to wrap up with our final group, the communications and social media. We have our student representative and Commissioner Joyner here to present.
All right, best for last, I suppose. I'm the student representative, Nathan Noble, and this is Commissioner Joyner. We really enjoyed getting feedback from the community about how we can better communicate with parents and just members of the community about what goes on at school. So in our first breakout session, we started off by talking a little bit about gun safety at schools, how that's communicated. Also, a little bit about what is and is not revealed to parents, what is classified information that cannot be revealed, and what is and at what point it is. Yes. So a lot of that comes from on-site principals who have most of the information, not from the district, because they don't have nearly as much as the on-site responders. So we also talked with some future teachers about better communication with support staff, substitutes, and people who are on campus or off campus who are somehow involved with the incident. How can we do that efficiently? How can we do that effectively? And so that everyone is getting relevant and immediate information. Now, something else we talked about as we got to emergency communications, what do the codes mean? Now, many of us know what the code red is, the code yellow. Website with an alert, and sometimes to parents individually. And lastly, we talked once again about codes and about informational calls. And if there's a code going on at your kid's school, what we do to inform you what's going on, how we give you status updates as the situation progresses. And even if there's no new information, we can just tell you, well, we are continuing to send you status updates so that if there is new information, you can be well informed. It was really great to hear from everyone, to have their input about how we can communicate better. Amber, is there anything I missed?
I would just say one of the most positive things I think was hearing from staff that, like, one of the concerns we heard was that different family members in a family might say they want to receive text and email and calls, and some family members don't get those. And we learned that it's because the system, which is a little bit old, picks a primary person. And we just said, well, maybe we should tell families that and let them pick their primary person. But the positive news that we heard is that they are looking into maybe potential upgrades in the future to that, so that that communication loop is closed. And also we're hearing that there might be an app coming up to improve communication. So I think overall it was really encouraging to hear, and for me personally, just over the last 3 years, I'm so impressed that ideas that have come out of these past forums, like the ticker tape announcement of the emergencies across the website, things like that, they've been very responsive to. So I'm hopeful that with all of this feedback about the new things that need to be improved, that I think I hear they're in the works. So that was good to hear.
Thank you, guys.
Beautiful, beautiful job. That's why it's so important to have student voice, because our students really, you know, they experience school safety every day because they're in the schools. So we're so happy to have our student representative. Okay, so it's almost time to wrap up, and I just want to commend each and every one of you for taking the time out of your busy spring schedules to spend 2 hours with the school district. I can't say enough about the commissioners who volunteer your time ongoing. We're always asking a lot of you, and you always step up to do whatever you can to support the school district. And to the staff who shows up, who is so passionate and took time out of your schedule to be here, thank you so much. And our trustees, we had President Holland here, who had to leave a little bit early, but Trustee Caudell back there in the corner, thank you so much, one of our newest trustees, and of course, one of our most experienced trustees, Trustee Raymond. Do you want to come up for just 2 minutes and give a quick thank you to our audience?
Well, yes, thank you all for coming. I know for the students, it's been a long day, and thank you to all the students who made it out after a long day at school, to our staff and the parents. It's a busy time of day with lots of activities that go beyond a special meeting like this, but we really appreciate your feedback. And I know for me, and I think I can speak for Trustee Caudell and President Simon Holland, just hearing your ideas and some of the feedback you have gives us more information and what we can do when we're working as a team to make this a safer school district. So thank you. And thank you to wonderful Chair Rosario.
And I couldn't, also we want to thank Bernice Mathews for being so gracious and working with our communications team. Such an amazing school. But before I bring up the last speaker, who's always a great person to wrap up these events, I want to acknowledge our communications team. That are the individuals who have worked tirelessly for months to put this on. If you guys could all stand up under the direction of Irene Payne, back here in the corner, Colleen, you guys, I mean, you're just so amazing, and the commission is really demanding as far as what their requirements are for this type of form. And they've worked in partnership with our communications team to make this happen so we could really hear community voice. So kudos to our communications staff. I know how hard you work, and we're so, so appreciative. And hi, Mr. Hardaway. Thank you for being here. Okay, so I think we're going to turn it over to our final speaker, and that's Chief Trevino, our Chief of School Police. He works so great with the commission and has been a true, true partner. And I always like to have him wrap everything up. So thank you, everyone, for being here.
All right, well, thanks everyone for coming, and I mean, I don't have a lot of other things to say other than the fact that, we really appreciate everyone taking the time out of your busy schedules to come out here. And, a couple things I really want to leave you guys with. The folks that came to my table had some great questions, and that's exactly what we're here for, is to bring those questions out, to flesh those out, and also to get a lot of information out there that a lot of people just don't have. There's a lot of assumptions about school safety and the different various things that are wrapped up in that. But it's when you come here, we can actually talk to you and inform you on what's really going on in the Washoe County School District. A couple things, Commissioner Rosario talked about a little bit, but didn't really hit on, is the Safety Commission has done some fantastic things across the district and done some things that are very unique in this area, which is, they took it head on, brought it to me and said, what do you think about bringing in somebody from the outside to take a look at safety in Washoe County School District? And I said, absolutely, let's do that. I think that's a fantastic idea. And we've been working on that. This is going into year number 3 now with outside safety experts that are known around the nation and taking an outside look at Washoe County. So it's not just us sitting here saying, hey, these are the great things that we're doing to protect your students. It's somebody else coming in and saying, hey, these are things you guys are doing well. These are things you need to improve on, like the door numbering system. That wasn't our idea. That was the outside safety experts. Simple idea, but it was something that had kind of gotten lost in the mix amongst the big projects that were out there. So when we talk about school safety, I just want to really put it out there that everything has to be done in layers. There is not one magical answer for school safety. Everybody's going to have a different opinion, a different view, and any one thing that we do isn't going to necessarily be the answer. But when we continue to build these layers of safety and security and put them in place, we can make our schools a safer place across the district. So although oftentimes people don't understand, well, what does a fence really do at a school? Well, I can sit here and talk to you for hours about what a fence really does, but that fence has to work in conjunction with our single point of entry, in conjunction with our visitor management system, in conjunction with our door numbering. Everything builds upon the other layer. So I'm always available. My information's on our district website. If you go onto the departments and click on school police, you can find my contact info there. There's a section called Ask the Chief. You can just click that and it will shoot me an email right over. And I am more than happy to sit down with anybody in a one-on-one if you have additional questions, something that wasn't answered here tonight. If you have questions about school police or some of the other things that maybe you didn't want to discuss tonight or ran out of time to discuss, myself, the other district personnel, we are always at your disposal and happy to answer any questions that we possibly can for you. And thank you guys very much for coming out tonight.